everyone, this is a yoga quickie for you. We're going to start lying down, so whenever you're ready, make your way down onto the mat. See you in a moment. So settling into a really nice, comfortable lying down position and just allowing your body to relax, to soften, noticing where there is any tension and where you might want to spend a little bit of time just to release that tension. And then soften the gaze or close down the eyes and just allow yourself to arrive on your mat. Take a few moments to let go of everything else that is going on in your life so that you can really focus on yourself and your body right here, right now, in this moment. Bringing the head back to center and then allowing the right ear to fall towards the floor, stretching into the left side of the neck. Turn onto the side of the head. Allowing the whole body to stay heavy. And then bringing that head all the way back to center. Reach the arms up overhead. And just notice here what happens in your body as you reach the arms up overhead. Becoming aware of what happens to your rib cage, what happens to your back, your pelvis, shoulders. And then if you've noticed here that your back reaches up off the floor and your rib cage starts to flare up towards the sky, can you pull your rib cage down towards the floor, flatten the back on the floor, and then notice what happens to your arms? Mine lift off very slightly, now coming into my active flexion. And I'm now not making any compensation in the rest of my body. The flexion from the shoulder joint is coming from the shoulder joint. Notice how this feels in your body. And then bring the arms down by your sides. Pull the knees up. And start to rock very gently on that lower back. You can allow the knees to just rock to one side and then the other. They might not go all the way to start with, maybe halfway. And then rocking all the way over. Allowing that lower back to come in contact with the floor every time you rock over to the other side. And then squeezing those knees up in towards the chest. And can you take those knees in big circles, but in opposite directions? So big toes stay together, you circle the knees apart, back together and then towards the chest. Keep the movement slow and controlled. And then switch the direction. And then squeeze the knees in towards your armpits, allowing your lower back and your whole back to push down into the floor. Now reach the feet up towards the sky, keeping the knees falling towards your armpits. You might find that your hip flexors start to switch on here. Take the hands down by your sides. Lift and reach the feet up towards the sky, lengthening the legs, and then squeeze those knees back in towards the armpits. Really try and keep your whole back flush with the floor. Lift the legs, and then squeeze knees back in. Lift legs, squeeze knees. Take 2 more. And then bring the feet down to the floor about hip distance apart. Take the hands down by your sides, snuggle the shoulders underneath the chest, and slowly roll all the way up through the spine, pushing into the feet, lifting the hips up towards the sky, squeezing the bottom here. Make sure that weight is on shoulders rather than head or neck. Drop halfway down towards the floor. Squeeze the bottom and lift the hips back up towards the ceiling. Squeeze back down and then lift back up. Release halfway. Squeeze back up. Release and lift. 2 more like this. Really squeezing that bottom every time you lift the hips up towards the sky. Hold here, really squeezing the bottom, lifting the hips all the way up towards the ceiling. And then rolling all the way through the spine to come back down to lying. Tailbone is the last thing to come down. And just allow that lower back to sink into the floor for a moment. And then can you reach the feet off the floor, knees in line with hips, shins parallel to the floor, and reach the arms up above the chest, straight up towards the sky. You've got 3 options here, so just make sure that your back is pushing down into the floor. We're going to start with just the toes dropping down to the floor. Start with the right toes, tap toes to the floor, and then lift back up. Left toes, lift back up. Stay here if that feels good. Otherwise, add in the opposite arm. So right toes, left arm. Left arm reaches out nice and long above the head. Lift back up. Left toes, right arm. Squeeze back up. Stay there if that feels good. Otherwise, we're going to lengthen the right leg and the left arm. Bring that left leg to hover. Squeeze back up. Opposite side. Squeeze back up. Lengthen and squeeze. Keeping that contact with the floor, with your back. Lengthening and squeezing. Lengthening and squeezing. And then pull the knees in towards the chest. Give yourself a little rock on the lower back. And then cross the ankles and start to rock and roll up the spine. And start to create a little bit of momentum. To then eventually come all the way to sit on your sit bones with your feet hovering off the floor into your boat pose. Lift the chest. Take a slow, steady breath. Balancing on those sit bones. Maybe releasing the hands. And then crossing ankles and rolling over the legs to come into your hands and knees position. So just taking a moment to get comfortable here. If you want to pop a blanket underneath the knees to give them some support, then feel free. You're going to take the hands underneath shoulders and knees underneath hips. And let's start to take circles with the torso over those wrists. We're just going to do a little bit of wrist prep. Switching the direction as you go. Allowing those wrists to open up slightly. Rocking backwards and forwards, maybe side to side. And then coming to stillness. Bring your attention into the right heel, the heel of the right hand, and then lift that heel of the hand off the floor, nice and slowly. The movement is coming from the forearm, so imagine the forearm firing up as you lift the heel of the hand and then release. Left side. Lift and release. Right side, lifting the heel of the hand off the floor. Slow and steady, releasing back down. Try and keep knuckles on the floor. Left side. Release. Right side. Release. Left side. Now if this feels good and you want to carry on here, then feel free. Otherwise, try and take both heels of the hands off the floor at the same time. Take 2 more like this. And release. Sit back on those heels and give those wrists a nice little shake out, a little circle. And then give the wrists a little circle by holding onto that forearm, make a fist, and then start to make circles from the wrist. And this movement is really nice and slow and controlled. One way, a couple of times, and then switching the direction. And then release that side and go over onto the other, again making that fist, holding onto the forearm with the opposite hand, and making those circles really slow and controlled. One way a couple of times, and then switching the direction. And then release. And just come into a comfortable seat. If that's staying on the knees and sitting back on the heels, then feel free. But if you prefer to come to sit down on the bottom, you can cross the legs or you can take legs that long, however feels comfortable. Just allow yourself to settle for a moment to take a breath in and out through the nose into the side of the rib cage, nice and slow. And become aware of this stillness that this provides, this breath provides in your body. And then that's us done for the yoga quickie. So I will see you next time. Thanks so much for joining me.